Got the red light here, setting the mood. I guess I'm going to talk about why I think button mapping is cheating, or why not why I think why I know button mapping is cheating, right? And I want to talk about like maybe the history of like button mapping becoming a problem, just because I um made this recent video and that kind of stuff is coming up. So let's talk about the history of how it all started when started becoming a problem. And I think the problem really from button mapping became because certain games multi-hitting moves became a core part of how the game works. And that makes button mapping cheating. Now, certainly there are different levels of cheating, and there are certain levels of, let's use the word unjustness, when you're like versing someone or whatever in a competitive endeavor, whatever tool you were using. But let's look at a game like, say, Street Fighter 2, which if you're playing fighting games, I would hope you know what Street Fighter 2 is, right? So in Street Fighter 2, there are, you know what I mean, people started wanting to button map because say you're playing on a controller and you have like a three button move like ggxx Lariat or whatever it might be. Or in the alpha games, the first two of them, you had things like, you know, a two button for a level 2 super or three buttons for a level 3 super, right? So, of course, there are things like, say, Balrog's turn punch, you know what I mean? Now, certainly, let's exclude that because certainly there is most definitely a skill, a dexterity to being able to hold three buttons while playing like that. So in that case, button mapping, you know what I mean, that is a much more unjust thing to do and cheating thing to do. But let's think about it from the terms of what I said earlier, right? So say like a Geef Lariat, three buttons, right? Or a trying to do a level 2 or level 3 super, right? From some level, we could think of this as, oh, well, we're having three buttons for this, or a button mapping for this, because this is something we're, let's say, quotation marks, randomly doing, right? This would be oh, I meant to hit, I didn't hit all three buttons when I was trying to do my level 3 super. I only hit one button or two buttons, right? So this would be a mistake, right? Oh, I fucked that up. This is a mistake. But certainly a mistake is still important to a game, right? Mistakes, any kind of execution is part of a skill of game, right? But again, roll with me here, right? But I think on some level, I would assume most people could be like, oh, okay, you know what I mean? I could see why we would let a pad player do that. Or let's say a player playing, you know, something like a Soul Calibur or whatever it is, where you have like two buttons for throws on this end, two buttons for throws like this. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like awkward to press these two buttons on a controller, right? I think there's an idea that we can suspend disbelief that, okay, that this is a mistake that logically should never be missed. We could tell that this is not a necessarily a dexterity problem, but a actual controller problem physically being able to press this, right? So whatever. Still cheating, but a little bit less, right? But the real problem with button mapping came, and when button mapping started getting called out in the community, is because you had games that the game was designed around multi-button moves. The game was designed that one of the skills of the game was being able to hit multi-button moves at the same time. Wave dashing in Marvel games. This is a core function of the game. Like all the characters are doing. Being able to have the execution in this game is being able to wave dash. There's going to be lots of opportunities for you to miss this wave dash, whatever it might be. This is not a random level 3 super that you once in a blue moon you missed your other button to miss, right? We have a game like Guilty Gear, FD, you know, I was going to say faultless defense canceling when you have those infinites in the game, but, you know, FD, you know what I mean, two buttons. We have RCs, false Roman cancels, you know what I mean? These are core functions of the game that the game is designed around multi-hitting, multi-button pressing moves. So to add button mapping to that is directly taking away the skill of the game because the game was designed for that in mind, right? You know what I mean? And I mean, if any people, I went on stream. I showed how I did a lot of those humanly impossible things people said that I must have been cheating to do. I showed how I taught myself how to press it on the controller, right? Did I put up on the stream? I think I might have been put up on YouTube how I was doing it too. I forget, but whatever the case, those are a obvious executional skill. And again, even going back to Street Fighter 2, you know what I mean? I'm not saying that I still think, you know, button mapping is still, you know, cheating. You know what I mean? It's hella suspect, but I think you can suspend disbelief for a guy hitting 3 buttons for Geef's Lariat or trying to do a level 3 super. Of course, Balrog's tap punch, you know what I mean? Turnaround punch is definitely, I just said ATM machine like a tap punch, didn't I? But that's a different thing. That's a different argument altogether. And if you're against button mapping and Street Fighter, I mean, sure, you got a fucking major argument against Balrog because that's fucking bullshit. But hopefully you get what I'm saying. But so I think in that sense, you tell yourself as a player, well, we're trying to make, it's just a little too awkward to hit this and it's once in a blue moon, right? But when we started getting games like Marvel, Guilty Gear, all these other complicated games where it was built into the game that this is a definite part of the skill of the game, and you want to have button mapping for these games, you were fucking cheating. Because the game was built around this, right? There is nothing like, oh, we're helping this dude out for a once in a blue moon mistake, which is still part of games, right? But this is you're making it easier for the player. You are bridging the skill gap because that is a direct component of the skill of the game, dude. This is what it means to be skillful at the game. This is not a once in a button thing. This is not a once in a blue moon thing. This is a constant thing that you have to do during the game to prove that you have skill in it, right? Having you only be able to press one button to do all these things that are constantly happening throughout the match is cheating, right? And you talk about but I mean you talk about button macros too. Like think about how, and just in general, how they're making games easier, right? And let's just go with what people are saying. You want to bridge the skill gap. What are other phrases that people use? Lessen the skill gap. You know what I mean? Well, let's just use the phrases or sentences that people use. Lessen the skill gap, bridge the skill gap. So in that sense, you are admitting that these games are less skillful, right? I mean, if we are using your words, you know what I mean? If you're making button mapping to make it less skillful. So in that sense, are you not admitting that the game that I mean, well, I guess I don't play the new games really, but I'm talking about as a community, you, whatever is playing, you are now playing a game that is less skillful. You are promoting a game which, in your own words, you are trying to make not skillful, right? Is that, I'm using the words that people use, right? I mean, I don't know how you argue that. I mean, you said it, right? So, and that's a problem because you don't want the game to be skillful. You want everyone, again, I've always said Jimmy down the street wants to be able to throw the Hail Mary pass, you know what I mean? Whatever, make the split save in hockey, during the breakaway. Everyone's want to be able to do the coolest thing, right? But by bridging the skill gap, you in your own words have said that you don't want the game to be skillful. You want the game to be skillful only if you win, and that's fucked up. That is a selfish thing to say, right? So, I mean, hopefully you get what I'm saying. There are definitely different levels of unjustness in video games. There are different levels of cheating, right? There are certain things that you can suspend disbelief. Well, oh, it's awkward to hit throw. Like I could see that. Like that's not something that logically we would assume someone would ever miss, right? Oh, they're trying to level 3. I guess it could happen, but it's not logically. But then you get into games again that are more complicated, games that have multi-hitting moves, button presses, and when you make them all one button press, when the game was directly made to be like that, that is definitely cheating, right? So I just, no, funny thing I was thinking too. You notice how games have less buttons now because people want games to be less complicated. Yet we have moves, even fucking Street Fighter doesn't even have close normals anymore, right? I wonder if King of Fighters has close normals. Does King of Fighters? I didn't play. I just saw the 3D one and I'm like, this game is garbage. I know the King of Fighters fucking that one of the recent ones, there were less close normals too, which I thought was funny. But I find it funny that as games have also gone on, we have more multi-hitting moves to press different buttons, yet at the same time we've taken away close normal moves. So I hope you get what I'm saying. It's like weird. Like so we want less normals to make it less complicated, but to add more normals in or other functions in, we're adding in multi-button pressing moves. Do you get what I'm saying? It's kind of weird. Of course, we have different things, multi-button pressing fucking DPs and whatever the fuck the bullshit in BlazBlue, Dance Dance, Beat Mania, whatever the fuck, Cross Battle, fuck my shit, whatever that game is, right, dude? But anyway, so button mapping is cheating. People in their own words have admitted that it's cheating, which I think is weird why people allow it to such an extent because you've people say words like bridging the skill gap, lessening the skill between players. So you're admitting you don't want the game to be skillful. Isn't that weird? You want to be good at something that takes no skill. No, you just want to be the person that wins, right? Which everyone does. And again, which I've always said, the difference between fighting games and other games is there's a competitive nature to fighting games because you're always versus someone else, right? Whatever the case. But there's another video game video for you guys.